Hi everyone, my name is Darrell Carmichael, and you're watching Keeping Up with Darrell on cmpradio.net. I'm here with Lisa Parker, who is a part of the National Alliance for Mental Health, but she's also a part of the Sharing Hope program, or a part of Sharing Hope that they offer for African Americans in the Chester County. I would I would like to I would like to introduce her to you guys, and and want you guys to learn more about the program.
Thank you, Darrell. I'm really happy to be here. So, my name is Lisa, and I work for NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. So, we provide free education, information, and support to people who have mental health conditions and to their family members. And we also do special programs, and one of those is called Sharing Hope. And that's a program, it's a three-part conversation series that NAMI National has created, and it's specifically for African Americans to address their particular mental health experiences. So we have African American facilitators, and the curriculum is designed by African Americans. We did it last year, and the people who were involved just loved it. It was community building, it was a lot of sharing about people's mental health experiences and how they differ from other populations. And the facilitators helped support them and guide them to community resources that they might need related to mental health. So we had two really wonderful facilitators. I don't know if you want me to do this, Darrell, but they did both write letters of support around their experience. And I thought maybe I would share one of the quotes that they shared since they weren't able to be here today so I could represent them.
Of course, I'm okay with that.
Great. So, Pastor Dickie Robbins, who's based in Chester, he's one of our facilitators, and he said, sharing hope is unique in the sense that it reaches people where they are without placing them with unrealistic expectations that some programs do. Sharing hope is culturally relevant and sensitive to the specific issues faced by Black individuals and families on a daily basis. The format of Sharing Hope conversations lends itself to people feeling safe and comfortable expressing their thoughts and feelings without judgment and presenting themselves without barriers. So it was very successful, and we're really excited that we're going to be offering it again in the fall at the end of September, beginning of October. So it's three conversations. Two are online, and one will be in Chester, an in person session, and we'll have food, and people can gather afterward just to, talk and share what they've learned.
Mm.
Uh, so that's just one of the programs that NAMI offers the community in Delaware County.
Okay, I guess what my first question would be is, like, how did you get started with NAMI, and why like decided to join the organization?
Oh, that's a really good question. So, about 4.5 years ago, I was approached by someone, and I really can't remember the circumstances of it, but they asked me to go and speak at a university about my mental health um, experience. I myself have a mental health condition. So I agreed and was so nervous and went and talked to nursing students at a Philadelphia university. And since then, I've been speaking for NAMI, and I really just talk about my experience with my mental health condition, my recovery, and I talk a lot about the skills that I've learned to be more mentally healthy. And I use my experience with mental health a lot with NAMI. So NAMI is very much is a peer-driven organization, and that means if you do a program for family members of someone with a mental illness, you need to be a family member of someone with a diagnosis. If you're doing a program or a course for people with a mental health condition, you have to have a mental health condition. We do a really rigorous 2-day training that NAMI National provides for us so that we kind of understand the curriculum and how to facilitate a group. But it's really very peer oriented. We're not therapists, we're not psychiatrists to come in and, judge or whatever. We're, people with lived experience. We're family members of someone with lived experience. And so we use that, we use ourselves, we use our own experience for the benefit of others. So that's how I got started with NAMI was speaking. And then I joined the board in 2021. And then I started working part-time for NAMI a couple of years ago, just really trying to expand the programs in Delaware County. We initially only had a couple of towns that we worked with in Delaware County, but then we got permission to work in all of Delaware County. So it was quite an increase in our, territory. So my job is to try to help get the word out about what we do and to create special programs in different communities. All of our services are free. We never charge for anything that we offer. So yeah, that's how I got involved. And like I said, I use my experience, my lived experience, and I'm also a mother of a son who has a mental health condition. So I teach the family course and I teach the peer course. And I also teach the basic course, which is for parents who have younger kids under 18 where there's some issues around mental health. So I think that's one of the great things about NAMI is we use our personal experience for the benefit of others.
I think from hearing from that actually is a wonderful thing that you guys do, and hearing your I guess hearing you talk about your like how you came to NAMI. I feel like that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm finally comfortable like talking about my diagnosis and talking about how I struggled through my life and, talking about my recovery. Like it's taken me years to kind of be shaking in my boots talking about it, but now I'm finally comfortable talking about like on Monday, I'm going to Drexel University to talk to physician assistants and they're doing a module on mental health. So they really want to hear. I'm going with another person who has lived experience. She has another diagnosis than I do. So we're both going to talk about our different mental health experiences and our recovery and answer questions that they have. And the question and answer is always the most valuable part of when I go and speak because the students have such great questions and they're so surprised that we're willing to like share personally about what we've been through and how we've moved into recovery. And people come up to us afterwards and say, hey, I think my mom has your mental health condition, or I think my roommate might have some issues with depression. So we kind of try to help them. And so when we talk with universities, either physician assistants, nursing students, medical students, psych students, we talk to them as future care providers so that they have more compassion and sensitivity to people who might have a mental health condition. But we're also speaking to them because mental health conditions are so common, 1 in 5. So in the room, we've got people with mental health conditions, or they know someone or someone in their family has a mental health condition. So we kind of talk both from your future practitioner, but also your human being that might be struggling, or someone might be struggling with their mental health.
That's a great thing that's actually great. Um, I did want to ask, like, how did like Sharing Hope come to be in NAMI?
Mhm.
Like what was like the process? What was like the process of like trying to
Right.
bring that
Yeah.
program to life?
So NAMI National. So NAMI is a national organization, but we have affiliates all around the country. And I work at one of the affiliates, which is NAMI Mainline PA, but we work in all of Delaware County. We're actually going to change our name to integrate Delaware County into our name. This is very confusing. People say, well, what are you doing in Delaware County, your mainline? But we've just, gotten that expansion to our territory. Um, so we learned about the program and we really were very motivated to implement it because we felt that we were not doing enough specifically for African American populations. Um, when we do our courses like family to family and peer to peer, probably about 30% might be people of color, but we didn't have anything that was specifically for African Americans. And so when they came along with the curriculum, we were really excited. So we found several community members. So three community members, one who's based in Chester, and two others, and then also a young adult who's very interested in getting involved. And she's really been finding her voice, and we've really been trying to support her in becoming a mental health leader in her community in Eddystone, which is right next to Chester. Um, and so the first step was for those four people to get trained in the Sharing Hope curriculum. So we always have our facilitators trained so they know what they're doing, they know the materials, they know the videos, they know the questions to ask. So all four of them went through the training, which is really great. And then from there, we scheduled our first series of conversations. So that's kind of how it unfolded. And these are people who are working as volunteers. They're not getting paid. They're not even getting a honorarium. They're doing it because they believe that this is important for Black mental health and it's something that they want to do. And I don't even know the curriculum because I'm not African American. So I don't even get to see the curriculum and I don't get to be involved in it. I just trust the community members that, um, you know,
Mhm.
and they've raved about the curriculum and said it's a really great opportunity for African Americans to, start this conversation of how are mental health issues different for us? How can we express ourselves? How can we find help? How can we connect together? Because one of the fundamental things of having a mental health condition or struggling with your mental health is isolation. You feel like other people don't understand what you're going through. And family members feel the same way. They feel like I have someone who was teaching a course with me and her son had attempted to take his life. And she would call me and say, I don't know how to talk to my friends. They don't understand. They ask a lot of questions, but they don't really um, understand what I'm going through. And my son had an attempt several years ago. So I've been supporting her because she knows that I know what she's been through. And that helps break through that isolation. And that's what sharing hope is a way to break through that isolation and make those connections, both individually and community wise.
Yeah, I think that by having community like that in our city and our having it like in the meanwhile it would be a great opportunity to showcase like people who want to spread awareness about mental health and things
Mm.
like that.
Yeah. So yeah, we're excited. So we're planning the dates for the fall and it will be two online sessions and then the third session will be in Chester, which so that we'll have the session and then we'll have food afterward, and hopefully welcoming the community and welcoming anybody who wants to be a part of it. And like with all of our other programs and services, it's absolutely free. So I
That's
hope when we're getting close to it, we can send you the flyer and maybe you can get it out to your listeners and maybe they can register for, for the series. And even though it's a series and the best way to do it, the most impactful way is to do all three sessions. People can just do the things that they can do. So some people just did one online session and then they came to Chester for the in-person session. Some people just did the two online sessions because they weren't in the Chester area. So it really depends on the individual. You can get something out of it even if you're only part of one conversation. But the more of the three conversations that you're a part of, the more you get out of it.
yeah. I'll be sure to keep an eye out for that, just in case I'm able to maybe come to one of the sessions.
That would be great. We'd love to have you. And our facilitators are great. Dickie and Sammy are amazing. And Tasia, who's the young adult, comes as well. She's just wonderful. So I can guarantee you have really good facilitators for Sharing Hope.
Yeah, I do believe that their mission for the Sharing Hope series is positive one. Um, but I wanted to know what was if this, you don't really have to answer this if this sounds too personal, but if it's okay, what was your journey with mental health, and what advice can you give to those who are in need of support
Mhm.
during these times?
Yeah, no, I'm very open about it. I had a very long journey. And the problem I had was I kept trying to go for help and I kept being misdiagnosed. And so it wasn't until about, I don't know, 10, 11 years ago, and I'm old now. So 10, 11 years ago, I was diagnosed. And with diagnosis comes um, you know, types of therapy that are appropriate for that diagnosis, types of medication that are appropriate. So, being accurately diagnosed, I would say, is one of the main things. And there is a lot of confusion out there. It is really difficult because many mental health conditions have overlapping symptoms. So, someone with bipolar disorder uh, also has symptoms of depression. So, is it depression or is it bipolar disorder? So, sometimes you go to one clinician and you might get one um, diagnosis, and you go to someone else and you get another. And I think the point is to keep going until you really find the one that really makes sense to you, because I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety for many years, and I always knew there was more to it. Yes, I had depression and yes, I had anxiety, but that wasn't the whole story. So I just kept working and working and working. And finally, I found a therapist, and within like 3 sessions, she totally like figured out what my mental illness was. And instead of telling me, she just gave me some books about that mental illness and said, why don't you go home and look at these, and I'll see you next week. And I looked at the books and was like everything. So my mental illness is very stigmatized. My mental illness is called borderline personality disorder. It's a very stigmatized disorder, and it's hard for me to even say it in a public place because people have all kinds of, we have, just as mental health in general, a lot of stigma, a lot of judgment. If it's a personality disorder, you must be really like off your rocker kind of thing. Um, but being diagnosed, even though it was a really hard day, hearing that was really hard, but it also opened up my beginning to recovery, because for people with BPD or borderline personality disorder, something called dialectical behavior therapy or DBT, which is very present based, very skill based, is super helpful for us. And that's been my godsend. That's like the anchor of my recovery. And so when I go and speak now, I end with some slides of like my favorite DBT skills. And I don't call them DBT, they're just life skills. Like, how do you be responsive versus reactive? Like when someone comes at you, right? How do you hold yourself back and not just react in anger, but think about it and then have a measured response? How do you calm yourself down when you're feeling upset? Like, what are the ways to do that? So I put all those in my slides because I feel like the things I learned in DBT are things that are just kind of like life skills that I wish I had learned when I was a teenager or young adult, about how to manage your emotions, how to interact with people in, a constructive way, mindfulness, how to manage when you feel distressed. Like one of our issues is with BPD is it's hard for us to soothe ourselves. We get upset and then it's really hard to soothe ourselves. So in DBT, they teach you all kind of skills for that, how to soothe yourself. Um, so it's been a long road for me. And I think one of the reasons I'm doing youth programming now, we have 2 youth programs now that I'm really excited about, is because I wish for myself that I had gotten help and I had gotten support when I was a young person. Um, but I try not to think about that because that's in the past. I only have the present moment. I only have now. So if my experience can help someone else, especially someone younger, I want to do that because that could be the difference for them, in their life. That could like change their trajectory of where they go in life. So I'm really excited about the 2 youth programs we have, and I hope I can tell you about them.
Yeah, I'm okay with you spreading the word about the programs and
Thank
such.
you.
Yeah.
Thanks. So one is an online youth group. It's for high schoolers. So it's every other Thursday night. And it's kind of a different concept because half of it is a support group, just like an open support group. Kids can talk about whatever is on their mind. Sometimes we talk about, stress with academics or friends or loneliness, different things. But then the second half is a mental health skill building session. So we have different speakers every time. So last night we had a session and it was all about positive and negative coping skills. So we had a wonderful college student who's done so much work on himself. It's like I'm inspired when I hear him and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so young and you have like so much insight. But he shared about positive and negative coping skills and how to develop positive habits so that we don't move into negative coping skills like the drugs and alcohol, isolation, sleeping all the time. These things, our brain says we have to protect ourselves, and so that's what we do, but those things aren't always in our best interest. So to kind of clarify the two was really helpful. So we have a different subject every 2 weeks. I think the next one is about gratitude, about the power of gratitude in your life. So that's the online youth group. And if you go to our website, NAMImainlinePA.org, and scroll down, you'll see the flyer for that. It's called Stay Well, Build Your Skills. And you
Mhm.
can click on that or use the QR code and register for that. And that's for high school students, totally free every other week. And then the second thing we're doing with youth is our second annual Mental Health Summit for Youth, which will be in Havertown on April 26th. This was something we did last year, and we had about 50 high school students from all around the area come. And we would love to see students from Chester and the Chester area come. Um, the the kind of main part of the program is we have a panel of both young people, like young adults, and then we have 2 high school students. And they talk very, very honestly about their struggles with their mental health and what they've done to try to heal in their own way. And last year, you could have heard a pin drop in the room. I mean, the kids were so absorbed, and there were times when a couple of the panelists like got teary or whatever, and the audience was right with them and clapped. It was a very supportive, non-judgmental place. So after the panel, um, participants get to go around, and we have all different kind of creative mental health activities, like painting a rock for yourself that is mental health for you, or giving it to someone, or posting on a wall. You know, if you saw someone who was struggling with their mental health, what would you say to them? We also have support dogs. We have a great raffle. We have food. It was really a great event last year, and so we're really hoping to get high school students to come out for it again this year. And what we're adding this year is a parent session. So while the panel is going on with the youth, the parents are in a smaller room, and they're going to be talking about what are youth mental health issues that are coming up a lot now that mental health providers are seeing. What are signs and symptoms that you should be concerned about? And parents and caregivers will actually have the chance to ask questions of the mental health providers and talk with them. So
Mhm.
that's an addition, because parents were so interested last year, and we were kind of like, this is for the kids, it's not for you. So this year we have something for the parents and caregivers as well.
Yeah, I will be definitely looking forward to to seeing that, like seeing what people thought about like those programs and sessions and such.
I mean, I think the most powerful part was just that young people could be so brave to share about their struggles, whether it was anxiety or depression or bipolar disorder. And the audience just really wanted to hear everything they had to say. And, we also talked about how can other people help you? Like what's helpful and what's not, because some of us who have mental health conditions, people might try to help, but they can kind of make it worse if they don't come at it with a compassionate framework. They can be kind of judgmental. So we talked about that, and I think that was really good. And the other thing that I thought was great about it was after the panel, the four panelists were like, they were like levitating. They were so excited because the same thing I said about myself, like that they use their struggles to help educate other people, was really powerful for them. And it was great to see them. And even if they got teary or whatever, they still got through it. They still did it. And it was a positive experience for them. So I was very happy about that.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great in today's world. Speaking of today's world, what are your thoughts on how the world treats people with mental illness? Um, but people, I guess, yeah, how the world has treated people with mental illness in the past, and how would NAMI change that mindset in today's society?
Yeah. I mean, NAMI is all about reducing stigma and telling people that they're not alone. So I'd say those two messages are NAMI messages. And so, as far as the stigma, you know, mental illness is a really broad term. So there are people who have a mental health condition, who work, who have a family, and they're able to function. And then, it goes kind of on a continuum to people who have difficulty functioning independently, have trouble functioning, keeping a job. So there's a whole continuum. So when I hear people talk about mental illness, it's like it's one thing, and it isn't. It depends on your diagnosis. It depends on where you are in the spectrum of like functioning. I have a mental illness, and yet I work, and I have a family, and I volunteer in my community. Sometimes it's not easy, but I'm able to do those things. But sometimes other people are not able to do that. So I think understanding mental illness on a continuum and not having just like some idea about it or some judgment about it. I think the way our media portrays people with mental health conditions is very negative, both in movies and on the news.
Mhm.
Um, uh, it's disturbing to me when I see people talking about, somebody with a mental health condition, and certainly someone who goes to a school and kills innocent children. Obviously, they have something going on with them, but that isn't representative of people with mental illnesses. Most people with mental illnesses harm themselves. They don't harm other people. They're not dangerous. So if you look at the statistics of how people with mental illness are in terms of like dangerous crime or violent crime, we're very low on that. But in the news, we get a lot of attention. And so I think people think, okay, people with mental illness are dangerous, and they have those kind of stereotypes. I also think that we make this distinction between like a physical health condition and a mental health condition. Well, mental health conditions, they start in the brain. So they're actual biological, physiological conditions. And we talk about this in family to family. Family members blame themselves for their loved one's mental health condition. But, the fact of the matter is, a lot of people are just born with something, born with a mental health condition. And it's not that anybody around them has done anything wrong. It's just kind of the way it is. So um, I think that it's really important to think about having compassion for people who have mental health struggles. And what I was saying about people with physical conditions, like we talk about that we're not a casserole illness, right? So, like if you have a cancer diagnosis or you have a baby or whatever, like your neighbors kind of rally around you and like, oh, how can I help? Or here's a casserole, or here's some, you know, dessert or whatever. With mental health, like when my son was diagnosed and when like people were on the street, like the ambulance was on the street, it was like people got scared. It's almost like, oh, my kids could catch it, catch his mental illness. And so people totally shut down. So there was no support, no. So we talk about it's not a casserole illness that people with mental health have to go through. And that's hard because there are a lot of biological and physiological basis to mental illnesses. It's not just a behavior, it's not just a choice, it's not just what we experience in childhood. It can be an actual physiological thing. And we've seen in studies that there are certain mental health conditions that have a very strong biological component. So if your parent is has a certain mental illness, you're like, you know, 60 or 70% likely to have that mental illness. So that's nothing you've done. You're just a baby, it has to do with your genetics. So there are genetic components to mental illness, but there are experiential components as well. I mean, I had a lot of trauma in my childhood, and um, I think it was the combination of a genetic predisposition for it and the experience I had as a young child and a preteen, the trauma experiences I had. And people with BPD, they usually have some kind of experience of abandonment or trauma in their childhood. And that's me. So, but yeah, there is a biological component. So I think that's something important for people to understand, just like with cancer or diabetes.
Yeah, I feel like that people would need to like nowadays would need. I guess people nowadays are like still like having like this stigma of mental like illness. Especially when it comes to television and like film. I was
Mhm.
about to say, for example, while this is unrelated, many there are like shows and such that would showcase someone with autism, like The Good Doctor, Atypical, Love on the Spectrum, and other projects I probably can get on my mind right now. But yeah, I have heard from like the autistic community, and, like people or YouTubers who have autism, or just like I guess creators on social apps like Instagram and such. They don't really tend to relate to this character because it was it was other than like most, I think, from what I'm trying to remember, like most people, not most people when it like act like this, you know the thing wasn't accurate. Like for example, for the good doctor, the scene where like I'm not sure what the guy's name was. He was speaking to Dr. Han, saying that he was like a surgeon, like and I think that was because I think he was close to like losing his job, or that he wasn't qualifiable enough. I might have to like rewatch this scene, but yeah, many people had said that this is misrepresentation
Right.
and such. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think our language is very important. I think when people talk about people as like crazy, I think it's kind of hurtful to people with mental health conditions because um, we're not crazy. We work hard. We contribute to society. We work hard on our recovery. We do the best we can. We take medications even when we don't want to take them. We do a lot of things. So I think people just don't have an understanding. And I think that goes back to NAMI and why NAMI is so powerful because we have people who facilitate our courses, people who do our support groups, and people who volunteer for us. And they all have a mental health connection. Either they have a mental health condition or they have a family member with a mental health condition.
Hmm.
Some of them, unfortunately, have had tragedy around suicide. And so they want to come and they want to work for NAMI because they want to have a purpose to the loss that they've had, the tragedy that they've had. Um, so that's one thing that NAMI does is it really allows people, and there are so many people who are touched by mental illness, so many people who have, a nephew, an aunt, a grandparent, a parent, a child, there are very few people who aren't touched by it. So we're just glad to be providing that. Our education courses are we share a lot of information and knowledge, but we also talk together about how it is to have a family member with a mental illness. How do we communicate better with them? How do we understand them better? How do we understand their mental illness better? That's family to family. With peer to peer, we talk a lot about goal setting and how do we want to think about our recovery. We have a lot of worksheets that really help people move into action about their own recovery. And with NAMI Basics, we give a lot of information and knowledge about services and resources for younger children, and give parents a chance to talk to each other and talk about how frustrating it is when they've gotten like the third diagnosis for their child, or that their child won't go to school, or you know they can share those frustrations and somebody can say, yeah, I've been there, I that's been my experience too. It validates our experience and it makes us feel not so alone. So yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Yeah, I think like your perspective on like how people treat mental health like in general, or like how the public treats mental health, like it could be very well said for like everyone. Um, I guess another question is it was more so on like your mission as well as the as well as NAMI's. What can me and the CMP radio crew like do to help you guys achieve that mission will helping those with like mental health issues. Like for example, like would you like would you want to would you want to be invited to like our like our like our events where we can where we showcase like important resources like the like the city of Chester. um
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to come, and we have tabled in Chester and in Eddystone and in Upland, and we would love to table, and we have mental health resources, and we have some giveaways for the kids. Like we have these little, they're like, it's like a brain, but it's like a something you can squeeze. It's like a stress reliever, and we have other things, that we give away, but really to be there to educate the community about mental health in general. And I think um, how you can help is to let people know we're here and we provide services for free. And maybe some of the services we provide aren't in the geographical area, but a lot of our services are hybrid. So people can join online wherever they are. I'm happy to talk to anybody who's interested in any of our educational courses or support groups to try to figure out where they match. Sometimes people are ready for a whole course, sometimes people just want to go to one support group. It's totally up to individuals. People can choose whatever they want. But just to help get the word out about us as um, a resource in the community, it's a free resource in the community. And then this just second, just to have for us to have greater awareness about mental health in general, and that so many of us are touched by it. So why should it be so stigmatized when almost all of us have some connection to it? Um, it shouldn't be seen as something to be ashamed of. It should be seen as something that we have to work with, that has challenges, just like having maybe a physical disability has a challenge. But it doesn't mean that we can't do the best we can with what we have. And different diagnoses have different outcomes. Um, but a lot of us are very functional and work to help others. And I think that's an important part of it, that, like I said, NAMI is very peer led. So um, our courses are facilitated by peers that are volunteers that are doing it because they've had a family member who has a mental health condition and they want to help other family members, or they're someone with a mental health condition, they want to help other people with mental health condition, or they're a parent of a younger child like I was, and they want to help other parents. Um, yeah. And that being said, like we're always looking for support, collaborations, funding, um, donations of like product, anything that we can use to get people out to our programs so that we can, just welcome them and, really get the conversation out there about mental health.
Yeah, and I'm sure that we will be able to like find ways to like incorporate like I guess mental health awareness in our NCMP radio some sort of form.
What's great. And we really appreciate the opportunity, and we appreciate you being willing to share what we have to offer. There's so many great organizations that are trying to do good work for families in the Chester area, and we're just one of them. But whatever we can offer, we want to offer that. We're always limited by our how many volunteers we have and how much funds we have, but we try to make the very most of what we have. And we love to come table and to be a presence in the community.
Yeah, I I agree with that. Um, my next question is: do you think that African Americans with mental health issues are often pushed to the side when it comes to other people who suffer from like mental health issues?
I would say I think there's a lack of understanding that African American mental health is different from, say, Caucasian mental health. And I think that's why NAMI developed the Sharing Hope series to be specific only for, like, you cannot go to Sharing Hope unless you are African American or, you know, part African American. It's you just, I'm not allowed to go to the training because I'm white. And that's good. That's a good thing because um, I think people um, have been brushed aside in a way. And I think one of the things that has come up a lot and people have said a lot is that, you know, in their church communities, in their faith communities, if they express that they're struggling, a lot of times, you know, the response is like to pray or to like do volunteer service. And sometimes that's not enough. It's not that you shouldn't pray if you're a religious person, but you know, sometimes you need other kinds of help. And so I think the Sharing Hope program allows African Americans to feel like they have other people that they can turn to, not just their faith community, to talk about mental health issues. Um, and I think they are different. I absolutely do. I absolutely think they're different. So that's why I'm excited. I mean, I volunteer to try to raise money for the Sharing Hope series because I find it um, like I'm so excited about and happy about it. And we have such great facilitators doing it that I feel really solid about it as a program. I mean, I feel that way about all our programs, but I think Sharing Hope is a great opportunity for African Americans to really get into real conversations about mental health struggles. And you don't have to have like a mental illness or a mental health condition to participate. It could be just that sometimes you struggle with your mental health. That's the only thing that you need to bring to the table.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like I guess when it comes to like black people and like mental illness that I guess I would often like be it presented, but there could be like people that maybe have a lack of understanding like of you know of like what they're facing. Like for example, there
Mm.
was this YouTuber called Itika. He used to like have like I guess commentary videos or like videos on like video games and such. But in 2019 he had ended his life like in his life because of like the of like because of his mental health and how bad it was like getting being I believe from what I saw it was like people was lacking to understand like that he was mentally ill or he was like facing issues and that his issues would need to be addressed. So yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, there are so many tragedies, and, you know, in our own NAMI community, there are a number of people have lost someone to suicide. And it's such a sad feeling to feel like someone felt so alone that they felt like that was the only way out. That was their only choice. And that's another thing that NAMI tries to do is we try to like educate people about the choices they have, like the skills that they gain, so that when they're in that really bad place, they call a friend or they take a walk or they write in their journal instead of doing something harmful to themselves. And that's why we always say with NAMI, you're not alone, because people do feel alone. And when they feel alone, sometimes they feel like there's no out for them, there's no um, choice for them. And we want to encourage people to know, you know, you always have a choice. You always have a choice. And, you know, it hits me very personally because my son had a very serious attempt 2 years ago, and we're very lucky that he's still with us. But right afterward, he called his dad. he took an overdose. Right away he called his dad, and then I called the ambulance, and he said, "Mom, get the pill bottle so they know what I took." So he didn't really want to die, but in the moment he felt so desperate, which there's so much processing as a parent that you go through when um, a child that you have makes an attempt, whether it's successful or not. You feel so guilty and you feel like you must have been a terrible parent for your child to be in that way. But I bring
Mhm.
it up to say, this is a situation where, sometimes young people can act really impulsively and then they regret it, right? So better, to be able to like we just got him to the hospital before he had a seizure. If he had a seizure at home, I'm not sure that he would have made it. And he was in the hospital 3 days before he went to a psychiatric facility. But um, what I'm trying to say is that um, people need to feel like they have options. And I think young people feel a lot that they don't. And one of the things that happened with my son is really important that I want to say is that after the fact, his peers went to his teachers and said, "Oh, he was saying this, and he was saying he wanted to jump off a cliff, and he wanted to do this and that." But you know what? They said nothing beforehand. Why? Because they were afraid to be snitches. They didn't want to snitch. And that is a very negative thing in youth culture that we need to work with, which is that what would you rather? Would you rather your friend die, or would you rather like say, "Oh, I wasn't a snitch," you know, and stand up for your friend? Your friend needs help. And so I think it's a really important message that youth feel like they have this loyalty, like they can't say anything. But if one of their friends is really struggling and talking about doing, like, literally doing things to harm themselves, like with a knife or jumping off a bridge or whatever, like that's the time to tell a trusted adult about it. And maybe your friend might be mad at you for a little while, but at least they're alive. At least they haven't, ended their life by suicide. So we are having a program on suicide prevention at the end of September. September is Suicide Prevention Month, and we're really excited. We have 3 excellent speakers, and so we hope to be able to tell you about it when it comes about. The other program I wanted to mention to you is on May 7th, we have what we call a lunch and learn session, which is on Zoom from 12 to 1. Might be of interest to religious leaders in the community. It's all about, as a religious leader, how can I be effective in reaching out to someone who's struggling with their mental health in my community, in my congregation? And how can I provide a really good, effective referral for services for them? So that's going to be May 7th. It's all on Zoom, and that'll be on our website as soon as we have the flyer done. But again, it's a free program, but it's specifically for faith leaders and community leaders who are really looking for information and answers about how to work with people in their community of mental health struggles. And one of the speakers is Dickie Robbins from Chester. So hope folks from Chester will tune into that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely sure that from this interview, probably people from my community will most likely want to see that, like to see. Um, I was gonna say, like, I heard of like a case where a cosplayer who was guess who loved to do cosplay had like recently taken her life. I believe was either last year or the beginning of this year because of like people had been bullying her, and because of her race. And I'm not sure this would apply to like mental health or not, but I think that kind of like you know had put like a or had made like or had made her like mental health like go down. And
Yeah.
she was considering that, maybe like doing cosplay is not really worth it anymore, and it does she had just like ended up just like that. I know of a person, he also speaks about mental health in the nerd community or the cosplay, or maybe just like the geek community a lot. His name is Tony Weaver Jr.
Mm.
He's like a content creator from Instagram. He recently he's known for like doing a book called like Weirdo, where he talks about like, being like, like I guess like an outsider or being considered like an alien, and by like, like neurotypical people. But
Mhm.
yeah, I would say just ensure he has spoken about a lot of mental health, because at one point when he was, I believe, like 11 or 12, or just like in short when he was young, he had like an attempt to try to take to try and take his life, but because of a song that he heard from a show that he watched back then, he had decided that, that things will get better, but he has to be here in order to witness these things become
Yeah.
better.
And sometimes it could be just that one small thing, that one kindness from a friend, or that one message that they get. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a small thing that can turn somebody from making a permanent choice around an impermanent situation. Like, one of the things I talk about with my slides is like, emotions come and go, and emotions aren't facts. So, but we feel like they are facts, right? When we feel strong emotion, it feels like fact. So we have to ride the emotion, because emotion doesn't ever like stay for days and days and days. It ebbs and flows. So if we just ride it out and get to the other side of it, then we can find calm and we can have better judgment. But it's hard when we're in that moment and we feel overwhelmed. And that's why I think it's important for people to know that they are not alone, that they're like, NAMI has a hotline, that people can call. We also have like now that same number. If you choose option 4, it's a parent caregiver hotline. So if you're a parent and you're not sure what's going on with your child and you're worried, you can call the hotline. And then there's the national suicide hotline, which is 988. Um, and, we really encourage people to call these numbers before they call the police, because sometimes police aren't trained in mental health issues, and they can kind of escalate things and make things worse when someone's in a mental health crisis. So I could send you those numbers if you want to post them. Um, I think, for people to understand. And there's even a Delaware County, they call it a warm line, which I'd never heard of before. But a warm line is just a line you can call if you're feeling upset and you just want to talk. It's just like, it's not a crisis line, but it's a warm line. So there
Yeah,
are different options in terms of hotlines, helplines, crisis lines that people can call when they feel alone. Maybe they can't find their friend or they can't find somebody physically, but they can call a helpline and get some support and try to find their way out of it, so that they don't feel so dark. And they think about, like you said, like, I want to be around for this, right? I want to be around for certain things. If I take my life now, I won't have any of those experiences. So just to get people to stop and think, I think is important. And the hotlines are helpful in that they get people, including youth. There's a youth choice too with the NAMI hotline, a youth and young adult hotline. So youth can call, and they can even text. They can text friend to a certain number, and they can text with somebody if they don't want to call. So there is support out there. There is help out there for people who are struggling. And like I said, NAMI is all about, you're not alone, and that we use our personal experiences to support other people who've been touched by mental health issues, whether it's themselves or a family member.
Yeah, I understand that too. I do believe that there is help like available for everyone, even if like there are people who are able to do I guess to um but yeah, I would like to say, are there any other like programs or resources that you would like to share to like CMP Radio, or
No,
you
I
know?
think I've shared them all. We have our courses, family to family, peer to peer, and basics. We have our support groups for people with a mental health condition and family members. Then we have those youth programs that we talked about. We have Sharing Hope, which is coming up in the fall. We have the suicide prevention program that's going to be in September. We're also doing a walk this year. And when you ask, like, how can we help? Like, we would love to get people to come out for the walk. We're just figuring out the location, but it will be in Delaware County and it will be at the end of September, early October. We would love for people to come out for the walk and to help us find sponsors, because it's kind of our fundraiser for the year. But it's a great time for people to walk together for mental health. I did one a couple years ago and it was really meaningful for me. So I definitely would recommend it. So we'll have all the information about that on our website within the next couple of weeks. We're just looking for a venue right now, looking for a space that can accommodate us.
Yeah, I do I will make sure that like that these resources can be brought to like our community, you know,
Thank you.
along with the resources. Yeah, along with these resources, we can maybe you can also bring down like the phone numbers that you had mentioned, and like,
Definitely. I could send you the hotline numbers and the crisis numbers. So you have all those numbers. Yeah, absolutely. Um, Yeah, absolutely. And when we have programs like our online youth group, when we have a group, but it's like, oh, we could have had three more students. Like, three more students could have benefited. We're always looking to like maximize what we're doing. So your support in getting the word out is really important because these are free opportunities that youth have and that people have to better their mental health. And there's no strings attached. Like, we're just here for the community. So
yeah, yeah, I think that's one of that NAMI has these programs that people can that they can join, like, you know, regardless if they have the mental illness or not. Um, but yeah, I would say that's all I have for now.
okay.
I
Thank
guess
you so much, Darrell, for taking the time to talk with me. Really appreciate it. And thank you for what you do for the community in Chester. Really appreciate it. And yeah, hope to see you at one of the events in Chester. Hope to meet you in person very soon.
yeah, I was gonna say thank you so much for offering to be a part of our interview, and hopefully that if we hopefully when we have like dates for our Fusion Friday events, we can um we can invite you and, you know, the other volunteers like to spread the word about, you know, what you do for like for the mainline community and the Chester community.
Yeah, we're there. We're ready. Thank you.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Carol.
You're welcome.